first reform from 1950 to 1990 development policy was the agricultural reform. Time period is the first 5-year plan. So first 5-year plan called for the agricultural reform policies. Children, one very important thing, in your in different books other than NCERT, you will find that they have talked about all the 12-year plans of India, but practically speaking, in CBSE class 12, your syllabus pertains to 3 plans. First 5-year plans, agriculture; second 5-year plan, industry; and the seventh 5-year plan, because that was when all the policy measures were directed towards universalization of elementary education and importance of human resource formation in this country. Okay, so practically we do not need to see all the 12 5-year plans or the annual plans. Okay, our objective will be only concentrated to first 5-year plan for agriculture, second 5-year plan for industry, and seventh 5-year plan for human capital formation. That's it. We do not need any other. So, institutional reform. Agricultural reform was classified into 2 parts: institutional reform, technical reform. Institutional reform entails land reform and formal credit system. What is land reform? The greatest reason for agricultural stagnation in India during the British rule was the land settlement system, where the Britishers put this rayotwars, zamindars, and other kinds of landlords in order to collect the revenue from the tillers of the soil. Now, first thing that government did, removal of intermediaries. This entire system of zamindari, rayotwari, mehelwari or landlordism system was completely abolished. Enactment was done to abolish all the intermediaries so that around 200 lakh tillers of soil came in direct contact with the government. Next was land ceiling. Land ceiling, C-E-I-L-I-N-G. Ceiling means the roof of your room. What does the ceiling do? Doesn't allow us to go beyond. Land ceiling means fixing the maximum limit till which one can hold land. Say in a state, it may be 10 hectares. So if a zamindar has 20 hectares, 10 hectares is excess land. Okay? Obviously, this excess land will be taken away from him by the government by providing a very meager compensation. It created a hue and cry, but let me tell you one thing. That land was not purchased by them. It was given to them by the British just in order to collect revenue. So they were not the landowners from time immemorial. Okay? So after land ceiling is done and excess land is taken from them, what happens? Redistribution of land. So land ceiling ensured that too much land does not get concentrated into few hands. So what will happen to the land that has been taken from them, the excess one, beyond land ceiling? It has been redistributed to the landless tillers of the soil, so that these farmers or sharecroppers, now they have their own land, they will have the incentive to cultivate and produce on their own land and earn some money. So equity was the objective behind doing this particular thing. Last one is consolidation of holdings. This was done to bring all the scattered holdings into one place. Because with the traditional system of agriculture, plowing the soil with bullocks was very easy in small piece of land. But frankly speaking, with mechanization of agriculture, when you have to run a tractor, you cannot take a tractor in a very small piece of land. You have to consolidate them. A huge piece of land can only be plowed with the help of tractor. But when these landless sharecroppers or tenant croppers or tillers of soil would be given their own land, they are poor, how will they produce? So formal credit system was introduced with the help of cooperatives, regional rural banks, rural branches of commercial banks, and NABARD, later formed in 1982, to disperse the credit to these farmers and teach them how to use the loan in order to buy agricultural inputs, do the farming business, sell them in the market, Whatever excess they earn, they will be keeping it for their self-consumption, and rest they will be using to pay back the money in the banks. So it was a complete literature that would be introduced with the formal credit system. Otherwise, these tillers of the soil used to borrow from the money lenders, from traders, who used to exploit them like anything, because most of these people are illiterates. The technical reform entails green revolution. Now, what is green revolution? Usage of high yielding variety seeds. These were developed in the beginning of the 1960s in the Rice Research Institute of Philippines. That is, each seed will produce more grains, multiple times more grains than the traditional seeds of India. Water for irrigation. These HYV seeds require a lot of water for irrigation. Mechanization of agriculture, usage of tractors, threshers, harvesters, so that the work goes on fast. Fertilizers and pesticides. This HYV seed plants were very much prone to pest attacks. So pesticides were required, and they required more nitrogen in the soil. So fertilizers were actually used to provide that nitrogen artificially. So you can see that the entire business of green revolution was pretty expensive, for which a formal credit network was very, very necessary. But do you think doing everything, it solved the problems of agriculture in India? Actually not. What happened? The big farmers often found loopholes in in the system of land reform. They started a case in the court which will go on for years, and no sign of land reforms for another 20 years. Sometimes they declare that I am the tiller of the soil, I don't have any sharecropper, so that they do not have to give up the land. Sometimes they used to transfer the land into names of their relatives, small members of the family, if possible their dogs and cats also, to show that they have the land within the land ceiling measure. Okay, so all these things the big farmers or the big landlords did in order to retain the land with themselves. Only 2 states actually brought out land reform on a very serious note, because the government of those states were very committed to the cause of the tillers of the soil. That is West Bengal and Kerala. Because if you have to, if you go to history a bit, please read a book by Rahul Pandita, Absent Statism in India. The Naxalbari movement, the people whom we call Naxals now, it started in Naxalbari in North Bengal. So it is called Naxalite movement. In Naxalbari, first time the tillers of the soil actually revolted against the landlords, saying the person who has the sickle in hand, they are the owners of land. So land reform was expedited in 2 states, West Bengal and Kerala, and frankly speaking, rest of India did not see even a bit of land reform. Anyway, now talking about green revolution. Green revolution. Many revolution happened in India. Long live revolution. We had green revolution, we had white revolution, we had golden revolution, we had blue revolution. What is green revolution? Persistent and immense increase in production of wheat and later on rice and other food crops due to the usage of HYV seeds, lots of water for irrigation, mechanization of agriculture, and application of fertilizers and pesticides. What was the positive impact? Wheat production in the 1960s, the first phase of grain revolution, grew like anything. Within 1960 to 1970, the produce was from 49.3 million tons to 199.3 million tons. So what do we see over here? Green revolution actually increased the production of wheat in India to such an extent that we became completely self-sufficient in food grain production. It helped to increase supply of food grains in the market, so the price also decreased. The poorer people could afford food grains. India forgot what is called famines, which was so rampant during the British rule. Also, the government could create a buffer stock of food grains to supply during a tsunami or an earthquake, or after a cyclone, drought, flood, and also give it to the very marginal below poverty line people through the fair price shops, through public distribution system. So green revolution had immense importance in our lives. Also, we have to remember that green revolution or no policy measure as such can be an unmixed blessing. Prior to Green Revolution, after independence, India literally had to import wheat from United States of America under PL 480 scheme. Now we were in the position that we do not need your wheat anymore. Please refer to one diagram in your NCERT book for this chapter where a farmer says we don't need your wheat, and it shows that US people are bringing wheat written over there PL 480. Okay, so but again, as I said, that Green Revolution was not an unmixed blessing. Due to Green Revolution, the rich-poor divide happened because Green Revolution was concentrated in the rich agricultural states of Punjab, Haryana, and Andhra Pradesh. The poor farmers, even after getting land, actually they could not do much with it if they were left out of the scope of the formal credit system. Number three, Green Revolution actually reduced soil fertility due to excessive use of fertilizers and contaminated the groundwater. Number four, too much usage of pesticides gave crops which were not healthy also. So basically, environmentally, it was hazardous. Nutrition-wise, crops were hazardous. Number five, Green Revolution was very much responsible for using too much of water for irrigation, mainly pumped from underground. So underground water level or water table actually decreased due to Green Revolution. Whatever it is, Green Revolution definitely created excess production, which the farmers now, who were traditionally used to only grow crops to eat themselves, now they know that we have excess amount to sell in the market, earn cash. So it helps the people or the farming to become a business in India. And another very important thing about this is that this surplus food grains, which they can sell in the market, known as the marketed surplus of food grains, help to create government buffer stock to use them during the period of shortages or for the below poverty line families. They reduced the price of the food grains to a great extent by increasing the supply of the food grains in the market, and they also helped, this marketed surplus helped in making food available to the remotest part of the country, so that India did not have to suffer famines after the advent of Green Revolution. Now, what we have to know is, since the formal credit system was introduced to finance the Green Revolution, especially for the small farmers, government extended a lot of subsidies. Subsidies definitely helped the poor farmers to take the advantage of Green Revolution for buying the agricultural inputs, for increasing production and productivity of soil. But the subsidies in the long run, children, remember, subsidy debate is a very important question of 4 marks. It can come for 1 marker also in assertion, reason, or statement based questions, but it is a very, very, very mandatory study for 3 to 4 marker question. But these subsidies, which helped so much, later on turned out to be disaster for government treasury, like a bleeding wound. Why? The subsidies were given by the government. What is the meaning of subsidy? That means if a farmer has to buy a fertilizer packet for 100 rupees, the farmer was paying only 20. 80 rupees was paid by the government. That is called subsidy, compensatory payment. Now, when the farmers started, small farmers basically, in the beginning of the Green Revolution, the scholars say that after they had enjoyed subsidy for 10 years, 15 years, subsidies should have been stopped. Number two, in many cases it was seen that these subsidies were used by the rich farmers of the rich agricultural states much more than the actually poor farmers of other states. Number three, subsidies helped the fertilizers companies a lot. They actually took the benefit of the subsidies the most. So, subsidies turned out to be a dripping wound in the government treasury, which was felt by the end of the 1990s, when India had a mounting fiscal deficit, due to which we had to expedite the process of our reforms in the year 1991. But one thing for sure, that the government did everything for the smaller farmers so that they can actually take the advantage and execute or apply the provisions of Green Revolution and increase their production. What is that? Government had research and tracking system, so that if wrong quantities of any pesticide or fertilizers is being put, then the farmer stands to lose everything. Okay, and their entire crop will fail. So the research and tracking team and trainers, agricultural trainers were always there, fixed by the government to help these farmers use all the things in right quantities. Number one. Number two, the government made provision of formal loans from formal sectors for the small farmers. Government provided subsidies to them. So government did whatever it was necessary so that the small farmers can also come to the standard of the rich farmers, thereby ensuring the long-term goals of 5-year plans. What are that? Growth, agricultural production grew. Equity, the small farmers provided with subsidy became almost at the level of the rich farmers to afford the agricultural inputs post Green Revolution. Number three, modernization. Green Revolution itself is an example of modern agricultural system. And number four, self-reliance. India actually became self-reliant in food grain production by the 1960s, when the first phase of Green Revolution happened, and later on 1980s when the second phase of Green Revolution happened to touch upon other food crops, rice in other states other than the rich states of Punjab, Haryana and Andhra Pradesh.